Recently, I've been trying to find a tank that I can reliably do well in, regardless of if my team is good or bad, and what better tank to do that in than the STB1, which I already own. So I did some games in it today, and I got around 3,300 average over about 8 games and 75%, which is really good, but I was surprised because I really didn't have to try that hard, which is why I wanted to just share with you that the STB is just an amazing tank, and I got a really good game, so I wanted to share that with you guys. For those of you who don't know, my favorite map in the entire game is Normandy, and since I'm in the STB, which is a hold down med, I just rushed straight into the frontline hill, and you'll notice that a lot of players, well not a lot, like 2, are going to the counter position from my position on this map. And that's not really a problem for me because the STB features so much pen on the premium that I can pretty much butter through anything, including the E3's hatch. I know it looks kind of red, but you can actually pen it pretty reliably at that angle, so it's not really a big problem for me, and I have so much gun depression that I can hatch him without him being able to shoot me back. And as for the test tank, I know that can't really do a lot to me because it doesn't have a lot of armor. So pretty much for most games, you can just sit here and not have to aggress all the way for, I'd say, about like 80% of the game. And then in the last 20%, you can usually end up rushing in and just clearing your opponents, because by that point you have pretty much bled them out so much that they're extremely weak and you don't really have to stay behind the ridgeline anymore. Now, if you haven't noticed already, this is not a difficult tank to play by any means, because I literally just spawned into the game and I drove up to a ridgeline and I've just been sitting here and farming, not really worrying about positioning or anything like that. So it's a really easy tank to play and a really easy tank to just get a lot of damage out in fact. I'm not even sure if I would consider this tryharding at all. This was actually a very chilled game. So pretty much to average a lot of damage in the STB1, all you have to do is find a ridgeline, stay there and farm, and make sure you don't over-aggress until the time comes to push when the enemies are weakened. And obviously that's part of good games. When it's a bad game, pretty much you can just sit there and farm until your team starts to fall apart, and then you can still get out some more damage because by staying behind the ridges you have preserved your HP. And this is one of the reasons why I really enjoy playing the STB1, is because as a player I would not consider myself a huge pusher. I would definitely consider myself more of a holding player. I think it's a lot more fun when I'm able to just chill and get my damage, and I don't know, I just like the playstyle a whole lot more. So at this point in the game, I've noticed that the IS-4 has started to play a little aggressively, and I want to try and get some shots in. So I go to this position here where there is a windmill and the TDs can't shoot me when I poke over to try and shoot him. I get clear into the TVP as well, and then I just keep sitting here. I do get shot by the Foch, but that's fine because by sitting behind the ridgeline, I've been preserving my HP enough that it doesn't really matter if I get shot one time. At this point in the game, I'm pretty much just gonna try to sit here. I noticed that they start being aggressive on the caps, so I go down to base A and try to capture it. And I'm not really concerned about getting shot by anything because I know no one's down here except for the Yag, who is going to miss me with his shell because I'm not gonna give him enough time to really aim in. And I'm just gonna sit here and try to capture this base, which I do. And then after that, I noticed that we're starting to get flanked, particularly by the T100LT, and if he manages to stay back there, I will not be able to stay at my ridgeline and farm. But in order to get there, I have to fight the IS-4, and my first shot misses, so I quickly reload and I load some premium just to guarantee the pen, and I do clear him, which means that I can start aggressing on the T100LT more to make sure that he stops interfering. So I stay behind this ridge and I just continue to farm him out and bleed him out. And again, not over-aggress because I technically am about a 2-shot at this rate. The T100LT's alpha is not very high, but he gets cleared, so then I can, at this point, start to go in, and I am going to just take a random blind shot at this guy, and it happens to hit, which is really good. And then finally the Yag is left. So I get a really lucky shot into him. I don't know where that bent, but that was really lucky. And then I try to convince my team to let me get the last shot since I'm almost at 6k, but they don't let me. But it's fine anyways because I end up mastering the tank and doing nearly 6k, which is a really, really good game. And that is exactly why if you need any tank in your garage, it should definitely be the STB1 because it can do basically anything and be undeterred and just really, really good. Even if your team falls apart, which I obviously did not showcase, but it's pretty easy to see that this tank is not hard to do well in, especially for newer players. You can just find a ridgeline and farm if you know a little bit what you're doing.